One spiritual discipline you will need is the spirit of contentment. Learning not to covet, learning to be contented with what you have now. And that must not be mistaken to mean that you are not going to be ambitious. No, ambition is biblically okay. Wanting to be better for the glory of God. If you're a junior, there's nothing wrong with wanting to work hard so that the next time they're looking for somebody to promote it, you will be promoted. But that does not mean you cannot enjoy the current job you are doing. You don't live in tomorrow. You learn to live in one compartment at a time without necessarily stopping yourself from hoping you will go there now. For example, you are in a bed sitter. Enjoy it. After all, most likely earlier you are living with your parents. Now you have a place of your own. Be happy about the gift of God. But that doesn't stop you having an ambition to go into a one-bedroom house or into a two-bedroom house as the finances become available. But this is very important to learn to be contented where you are. There is a story given of a young man who was going by train from Nairobi in Kenya to Mombasa, the coast. And the aunt was going to wait for him on the railway station in Mombasa. And he had never made such a trip. So the parents put him in the train and off he went. And he realized he's allowed to walk between the coaches. Although he was given a seat, he was so curious to see how the other coaches are. He kept moving from coach to coach to coach. By the time he was trying to settle down, they arrived in Mombasa. That guy never enjoyed his coach. And obviously it meant that he was a very tired person by the end of the journey. Why can't you enjoy your current position? For example, you are single. You are not married. Enjoy all the benefits of being single. I put a chapter in my book, Finding a Life Partner, to remind single people there are a lot of benefit in being single. And that does not mean there's something wrong with becoming married. But you can be a contented single person living a holy life and enjoying it. There will be challenges that will stop certain of your freedoms as a single person will have to be curtailed the moment you are married. Enjoy them now. But similarly, once you are married, learn to enjoy the marriage institution. There are certain benefits you now have in marriage you could not have when you are single. So you learn to live in one compartment at a time and enjoy what's up. And every Christian will need this. There are 3 reasons why this is a very important spiritual discipline. Number 1, when you don't live in this spirit of contentment, you tend to become a complaining person, bitter person, which is not a biblically right thing. You cannot be a witness for the Lord Jesus Christ when you are always complaining, never seeing anything good. You have no spirit of gratitude. And it's very important to be glad. You don't have that spirit. And it will soon lead you to sin in that spirit of complaining. Number 2, when you don't have the spirit of contentment, you very easily end up with the spirit of coveting, which is again is the last commandment of the 10 commandments given in Exodus chapter 20. The spirit of contentment makes you never have covet for other people's property. You are happy with what you have. You are working at God's time to have more, but for now you are happy. So you don't suffer from coveting. In fact, the reason why you need this discipline of living, being contented where you are, is because the opposite is to become corrupt. Many people who end up in corruption, who end up taking what does not belong to them, start from lack of spirit of contentment. When you're not contented, you feel like you are justified to take a bit of your employer's property. After all, he doesn't pay you enough salary. After all, you have been in a one job for too long without promotion. After all, once you go to that after all mentality, you are dissatisfied, you are frustrated, and there is a very big likelihood that if there are things the company doesn't guard well, they will soon find their way to your house. And all that started from lack of contentment. And so it will be very, very important that you are clear in your mind that you don't want to go that route. You don't want to become a corrupt person without integrity. Contentment is the basis for integrity. When you are happy where you are for now, you will not end up lacking integrity. And it's important. So it's a very important discipline that every Christian needs to be taught, because without it, you will not really be having the Christian life, an example of the Christian life that you would want to have. You know, if you really want to live a life of balance, a life of contentment, you must live a life of balance. You know, much of life is a question of maintaining balance. You are ambitious, but you're not so ambitious that you can start doing wrong things in order to realize your ambition. You need to create a balance. But again, it doesn't mean that because you want contentment that you have no ambition. There is too much ambition is bad, no ambition is bad. There is a balance between the two, and it's a very, very important balance. And if you want to live this type of balance that gives you this contentment, I suggest several things. Avoid dictatorship of the agent. In other words, don't allow something that you feel is urgent. I must have it now. That kind of life is not very good. It's very important to always look at life and prioritize what needs to be done when. So you don't do things that are urgent but not important. In my book, The Leader's Source of Influence, I say self-management is what will make people want to ask you to lead them. But self-management means you are at the level where you know that some things are urgent but not important. Some things are important but not urgent. So before you do anything, find out what is both urgent and important. So you start with, you only do fast and give priority to things that are both urgent and important. Then you now move to things that are important but not urgent. Urgent things, which are normally the ones that force themselves to be done, you should do them last. There are many things which, even if you don't do, nothing will go wrong. But if you cannot live a life of contentment when you allow your life to be without order. You need a disciplined, private life. And here I've introduced the word disciplined living. This life contentment is a very disciplined life. What is to be disciplined? To be disciplined is to do what needs to be done for you to realize your vision, even if you don't like doing it. That's what we mean by disciplined. So you do something because that one needs to be done. It is important, it's urgent, you do it because it is helping you to live the life God has called you to live. And that will be very, very important, to live a disciplined life. So for you to live this contented life I'm talking about, is a life of discipline. You don't just do what you feel like doing. You don't do that just what pleases you. You do what your master would want you to do. So you are disciplined. And then it will be important to understand the decision made on how well the item supports fulfillment of your call, rather than what other people think. So it means this person who lives a life a life of contentment has defined what success means to him. And success is not becoming wealthy. Success is not becoming famous. Success is not becoming powerful. Success is being what God created you to be. So people who have this contentment have clarity on what God brought them on earth to achieve. And as long as they are achieving it, they are happy, they are contented. Although they are not as famous as so and so, or they are not as rich as so and so, if they are in the center of God's will for their life, they are contented at what position they are in. And you believe that God will keep opening more and more chances. But for now, you are fully utilizing the opportunity of given. So you don't define yourself by, are you the most famous? Are you the most powerful? Are you doing what God wants you to do? Like Steve Covey says in the 7 Habits, be very careful that you don't quickly climb the wall, only to discover the top of the wall, panting and tired that you are climbing the wrong wall. Discipline will help you. Making decisions on the basis of your calling will also help you to live this contented life. So what then does that mean? That you have an ability to say no, an ability to say yes. You know, some people, everything to them is yes, yes, yes. They feel like they don't know to hurt others. So they say yes. What in the end happens? They live a very frustrated life because they have too many people they don't want to meet because they made promises which they cannot keep. The others whose reply to everything is no, not me, no. In the end, there are many opportunities for them to realize their vision that they will not take because people have accepted that the answer is permanently no. So they don't involve them. Again, question of balance. Once you are clear about your vision and calling, then it should be easy to say no to anything that's not leading you there, and to say yes to those things that are leading you there that can fit into the time schedule that is required. And I think that will be something that helps you. Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Verse 23 says, I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. In other words, if you want to live this spirit to have this life of contentment, you must avoid being addicted to anything. What is addiction? Addiction is something you do not because you want, but because you must. If something must be done, yet not after a very recent process or basis, then that means it's an addiction. So addiction is literally loss of control of your life. And you no longer are doing things because they fulfill your mission. You are doing them because you must. You know, that's why we tell young people, don't even try cigarette smoking. Why? It's addictive. You start by smoking because you want to show off to the other young people. Within no time, you will smoke it whether you like it or not. That will give you frustration. Many people who are smoking don't want to smoke. So how can you say they are living contented life when they actually don't want to smoke? The same thing with every addictive product, whether it is alcohol. That's why we avoid even a little alcohol. Why? We don't want something that can end up controlling us, especially when it doesn't add additional things. Of course, there are things that are addictive by nature, but you have no alternative. You need them in your life. But something like cigarettes, they actually damage your body. Something like alcohol is not required medically at all for your life. So if it's also addictive, why would you want even to take a little? So we are saying, if you want to live a contented life, don't allow anything that gets you addicted. Because the moment you are addicted, that's the beginning of having a frustration. Because you lose control of your own life. By the way, even sex can be addictive. So you need to be careful as a single person. Don't say only once. The moment you do once, you discover how difficult it is to not have sex another time. after the first one. So until you are married and you can do it within your confines of your marriage, these are the kind of things you don't want. You want to avoid anything addictive. Let me repeat the verse. I have the right to do anything. Yeah, it's true. But not everything is beneficial. So why are you doing something that's not beneficial? Yeah, you say I have right to do anything. But Paul says, not everything is constructive. So to live a contented life, you need to be in control of your life, where you are able to seek the mind of God. Is this beneficial? Is this constructive? And you do those things. And the reason you do things will not be because of you. Verse 24 is saying, no one should seek their own good, but the good of others. In other words, you live in order to fulfill God's calling on your life. And God doesn't just call to meet your needs. He calls you to live, to make impact for his kingdom that includes the people he has created. So, the next thing you need to understand in this, if you really want to live a contented life, is the importance of balancing expenses and income. That you must live within your income. There is absolutely no benefit when you live in debt, permanently in debt. No. It's possible to live within your income. Of course, you still must eat, but you will be surprised how different it is in terms of eating. Once you make up your mind, what I want is food, and I want a balanced diet. You want starch, you want vitamin, you want protein. You can get them at the various prices. If you have no money, just buy beans, and they'll bring you protein. If you get richer, then you might buy beef. If you get even richer, you might go for chicken and seafoods. As expensive as they are, they all give the same thing, protein. So why would you need to go above your pocket, what God has given you at this stage? And yet it's not adding anything additional. You can live with the beans. And the same thing with the starch. You can have starch from maize or from flour that you have bought the maize and gone to a flour making place, and you make flour and you have porridge. That's your breakfast. And it's very cheap. But of course, if you get richer, then you might as well add bread. But bread will not add anything additional. It's still starch. And you will get very rich. Then go for Weetabix and cornflakes and those things. But they are all adding the same thing that your porridge with traditionally made flour was actually doing. So all we are saying is, you must, for you to enjoy your life, live a contented life, you must learn to budget. Don't just spend, budget. And budget will help you, and it's not called a budget, a balanced budget, when you are putting more items on the expenditure side than on is available in the income side. You must live within your income. And if you can't do that, you may feel happy now that you are staying in a hotel you cannot afford, or you are eating things you cannot afford, but you are preparing yourself for trouble. How do people end up in jail? One of them, like I said earlier, is coveting. The other one is simply you have put yourself in such a hole, the only way of coming out of it is to steal. So, but when you learn to live within your means, you never need to steal. You never need to be corrupt, because you are okay. And like the principle of what we are discussing, you have learned to be contented at the current stage you are, without stopping being ambitious for more at a later stage. So you are learning then in the process, at every situation, to be contented. We are doing all this to tell you that you need to live a contented life. You need to live a life of integrity. Once there are no complications in your life, you will be happy. People come to audit your department, you don't live under fear. You are contented. Why? You've not done anything fishy. If they discover anything, it will be a mistake rather than anything. You have not stolen anybody's money. So you're not surprised. Your wife comes and finds you in a hotel, and she had not told you she was coming. You are not afraid. There was nothing you are doing. A person of integrity lives a contented life. Integrity gives a life of contentment, and contentment leads to life of integrity. The two of them are two sides of the same coin. Integrity will give contentment. Contentment will cause you to have integrity. You need both. You know, Ecclesiastes 3, verse 11 to 15, he has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set the eternity in the human heart. Yet, no one can fathom what God has done from the beginning. I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in their toil. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does it so that people will fear him. Whatever is has already been, and whatever will be has been before, and God will call the past to account. That is the basis of living this happy life that Solomon is talking about in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. You know what verse 11 is saying? He has made everything beautiful in its time, which is the theme we have been carrying in this spiritual discipline. Learn that he has made everything beautiful, but only in its time. So you have sex before marriage, you end up with frustration. You eat before you stay in a house you cannot afford, and yet God is going to bless you with enough money in future. But you have done that before. Things are right if it is their time. He has said eternity in the human heart is also there. So please understand that to live this life of contentment, you must accept there is timing for everything. And God makes things beautiful. So don't try to get something that is for the future now, or something for the past now. There's something appropriate for now. And I think that will be something that you have to ask yourself, whether you believe in it and are living within it. You know, contentment is the opposite of coveting, like we have seen. A content person may still want more, we have been saying, but he is able to enjoy what he has for now. That's what I wrote in my book, The Secret of Contentment. That ability to learn to enjoy what is there now. Philippians chapter 4, verse 11 says, I'm not saying this because I'm in need. This is Paul's testimony. For I have learned to be content, whatever circumstances. Verse 12, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or want. Are you getting Paul? Paul is saying to have this contentment is a Christian heritage, but unfortunately it's a secret. And Paul had to discover it. He discovered that sometimes he is having plenty, and yet he's not contented. He is not happy. Sometimes he is very needy, he is not contented. Then here, you can actually be contented in every situation. I have learned, he said, to be content whatever circumstance. And that's the secret we are really talking about. You know, materialism will remove your contentment. Christians, more so than anyone else, should be the first to point out that material goods will not give you the contentment. Temporal pleasures, I'm having a good time. It will give you happiness but not contentment. Even what you call the right image, they can never be the object of a truly human existence. Complicity in the world's way of life, which is not the Christian way of life, practically undermines your devotion to God. So what are we still calling materialism? It is living only for what you can touch, what you can own. Not realizing you are not your own, but God's instrument. You are God's instrument for God's chosen mission. That's why I've kept emphasizing, you need to know what is God's calling on your life. Then live it. It will give you a lot of joy. You are wired for a given purpose. And you should not be where you feel like you must do anything to get material things, arguing that the end justifies the means. No. God is interested in the end, but he's also interested in the means. If you want to enjoy, don't just wait to enjoy the destination. Enjoy the process. Mistaking money for a mission rather than tool for the mission will also give you trouble. Money itself is nothing. Money is an instrument to help you to fulfill the calling God has actually given you. So realize, greed is idolatry. Isn't that what he's saying in Colossians 3, verse 5? Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature. What are those things that belong to earthly nature? Paul goes on. Sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, greed. And then he goes on to conclude, greed is idolatry. The moment you cannot control what you want and you are greed, you end up worshipping material things. So you are in idolatry. You're worshipping idols, not Christ. Please realize you are a steward, not an owner of all the things with you, and God will hold you account to what you do with them. Isn't that what he's saying in Deuteronomy 8, verse 10? When you have eaten and are satisfied, praise the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe his commands, his laws, and his decrees that I'm giving you this day. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine houses and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. So this attaching yourself to, rather than having a mission to live for, living for material things, will soon make you forget God and not worship him. And it's the same thing that I think Matthew 25 verse 14 is saying, about the story of the talents. And it's very important that you don't mistake wealth. Because if you don't have the right perspective of wealth, it will bring you trouble. Don't mistake wealth for a sign of God's favor. Proverbs 10:22, Ecclesiastes 7:14 is emphasizing this, that God what he has given you is enough. The guy with the more is not favored more. Do not mistake your wealth for God's favor. Just look at the number of people who don't love the Lord and yet they are very rich. What you have, material things, is adequate for the mission God has given you at this time. So do not start thinking God doesn't love you because he has not given you many things. And I think that will be something that you need to understand. So fear God rather than man, and you will live your life satisfied, because as long as you are pleasing to God, he gives you a sense of satisfaction that allows you to worship him. So the fear of God will be the one that allows you to live happy. Even in the middle of a crisis, the moment you sense the presence of God with you, and then you realize his word is saying, he that is in us is greater than he that is in the world. Even in the hospital bed, there will be a spirit of contentment that the situation is under God's control. And that will make you live a life of joy at whatever circumstance. You understand why Paul is saying, I've learned to be contented at any and every circumstance. So in the middle of serious troubles, you will still have a smile because you are aware God is in control of everything that you have. And it's my prayer that even as you think about the things that you are facing, that God will help you see everything in the right perspective. Just like we read in Ecclesiastes 3, he has put eternity in the human heart. May you see everything in the light of eternity, so that you see its importance as to how it can help you serve God, who will benefit and he will be with you for all eternity. So the spirit of this spiritual discipline of living contentment in every situation is something good for us now and good for us into the future.